Welcome back on dermal. Today I want to propose you a video about the rules of the Codex Necron 2020 because it's really quite full of rules. I decided to create different videos with a focus each one on a different set of videos, and you can find everything about such rules in the playlist in the description, so not worry about this. And remember that you can find everything there. So now you can start seeing the rules related about the Cryptek Arcana. These arcana are technically a sort of upgrading objects that you can give to the cryptex, but they are in some way like the artifact, so you can't have multiple versions of the same arcana to different cryptex, and the same cryptek can't have multiple arcana, but the same cryptek can have an arcana and an artifact. So remember about such detail. And to use this arcana in your army, you have to include obviously a necron detachment that doesn't have to be the auxiliary support, the super heavy auxiliary, and the fortification network detachment. So remember that you can't count on this one. The other ones you can use to have this arcana inside, and you have to make that you can upgrade this Cryptek when you are mastering your army, so when you are creating your roster. And remember that you have to pay a certain amount of points that depends on the list that we can see here. And remember that the named characters cannot have Cryptek Arcana. So remember that there is such limitation, but this is anyway a way to personalize your own Cryptek, making such upgrade. And the first of the arcana that you can find is Ata Vindicator, that can be given only to Psychomancer's models. It says that at the end of your mount phase, you can select one enemy unit, excluding the vehicles, within 18 inches of the build and roll 3d6. If the total is equal or greater than the enemy unit leadership characteristic, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So it can be quite helpful, so you can think about using these to make damages. But remember that the usual discipline is going from 7 to 9, so it's not so easy anyway to make damages to the opponent. It's also true that there are mortal wounds, so that the opponent doesn't have saving throws against them other than specific ones. So it can be anyway a way to make certain wounds if you are able to bypass the opponent leadership. And then we have cryptogeometric adjuster that make you that at the start of your opponent shooting phase, and it's important because you do such thing in your opponent shooting phase, you can select one enemy unit that is within 12 inch and visible to the bearer, and until the end of the phase, each time a mod in that unit makes an attack, so shooting one, subtract one from that attack it roll. So it's really quite amazing of this, but you have also to remember that it's say 12 inch, so this is the problem, it's quite a short range, so it means that your Cryptek has to be relatively close to such unit to make such effect, even if it's really quite interesting as effect. Then we have photonic transfujato that make that once per turn, so once your turn and once your opponent one, the first time a saving throw is failed for the bearer, the damage characteristic of that attack is changed to 0. So it means that you have to pay attention, because technically it means that you are in close combat to apply this, because about the shooting you have many other ways to save, because you had the crypto trials and so on to save yourself. And otherwise it means literally you have to pay attention, because it's quite good, but to apply it means that you have to be the target of a specific shooting or the close combat. So it can be useful, but not so much. And then we had dimensional Saturn that let the bearer gain the dimensional translocations ability. So it's something that it's really quite great to make that the Cryptek can be deployed in a really interesting way on the battlefield. So it's something that I suggest you to take note about. And then we have cortical subjugator scarabs that it's only once per battle, so eventually remember that you have a similar stratagem. And at the start of the heroic intervention step of your opponent charge phase, you can select one friendly dynasty unit within 6 inches of the bearer, and unless this unit is within engagement range, because I want to remember you that in that way it would be yet in cross combat, so forbidden to make an heroic intervention, that unit can perform an heroic intervention as if it were a charter. So even if it seems not a lot, you have to remember that the Cryptek has to be within 6 inches of a model of the unit, then there is the volume occupied by the unit, and then 6 inches from the opponent that you want to make an heroic intervention to. So it means that there are at least 13 inches from the Cryptek and that unit. So it becomes that the range it's not much as you can think. So it's quite interesting to apply in such a way to make that unit can at the end make this heroic intervention to the opponent. So quite interesting. And then we have contemporary nanomines that can be taken only by Technomancer, and make that in your shooting phase you can select one enemy unit within 18 inches of the bearer, and until the start of your next turn, halve the advance rolls and charge rolls made for that unit. Advance rolls can be useful or not, but charge rolls is important because it can even make that the enemy unit that you are going to choose as target of such ability, it's not able to make a successful charge, so it can be really quite important. And then we have the fail-safe overcharge that can be taken only by a technomancer, and in your command phase you can select one friendly Cryptek unit within 9 inches of the bearer, and until the start of your next command phase add 1 to the attack characteristic of the models in that unit. If that unit is a monster or a vehicle, add D3 to the attacks of the models in that unit instead of 1. So it's a nice way to improve the Cryptek units that are in your army. And being 9 inch, it's even not so little as option, because then you have the movement phase and eventually the charge phase. So it can be really quite interesting. So I think that this, if you are interested about having Cryptek in your army, can be something that it's worth to keep. And then we have hypermaterial Albereto that make that in your command phase you can select one friendly dynasty core or Cryptek unit within 9 inches of the bearer, and until the start of your next command phase, each time a ranged attack is made against that unit, if the attack is more than 12 inches away, then the unit is selected, it's treated as having the benefit of light cover. So it's a good way to make that you have the option about having units on some objectives that can be safer, because even in open field they have some bonuses to their saving, so can be quite interesting. And then we have Quantum Norm that it's only for Plasmancers models, and it's a degraded version of the orbital bombardment stratagem of the Space Marines. In fact, once per battle in your command phase, the bearer can activate this item. If it does, select one point on the battlefield anywhere within 24 inches of the bearer and place a marker on that point. Remember that at the start of your next command phase, not the same, the next one, roll 1d6 for each unit within 6 inches of the center of that marker. Remember that it's each unit, enemy and friendly ones, and subtracting 1 from the characters rolling. So if you are going to have a chart in the range, it's not anymore the result that you gain, but a 1 decreased as option. And on a 4 and 5, that unit suffer D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that unit suffer 3 mortal wounds. Then the mark is removed. Obviously it's one shot, so you risk everything in that shot, but at the same time it's a way to add firepower to your army. So I think that if you are going to play a Prismatica, this is something that you can think about using. And then we have metallodermal Tesla wave, that at the end of the charge step of your opponent charge phase, you can select one enemy unit that finished a charge move within 6 inches of the bear this phase, roll a d6, and on a 2+, that enemy suffered d3 mortal wounds. So it's quite interesting, because if you are able to make that there are units surrounding your Cryptek and protecting it, can be a way that you make damage to a unit. The problem is that you have to be within 6 inches of that unit that charged. So it's a problem about being quite close to the opponents. So it's quite useful, but it's limited to the range and the situation that you put the Cryptek in. So pay attention, but can be interesting. And then we have filatarin hive, that lets you use it on a technomancer, and it's only once per battle. When the bearer uses its rights of an animation ability, you can select one friendly Canoptek, Destroyer Cult, or Triarch Praetorian units to be affected by that ability instead of one friendly core unit. So it's a way to recover at least one of such ones. So I think that can be quite great to think about, to make that it came back some models at least for that turn. So really good. So I think about having, if I include a technomancer, this one as my main thought about an arcana to give, because I think that it's amazing. If obviously you are going to include one of such kind of the Destroyer Cult or Triarch Praetorian units. And then we have prismatica of suskraton, that let you, unless the bearer is the closest eligible target, the enemy models cannot target it with ranged weapon. So it's good because you don't need the crypto trials to protect it, and at the same time, even if you are not too close to the other units of your army, you are able to be safe. So it's a way that you can make that Cryptek is free to move around the battlefield, obviously if it's not the closest to the enemy. So it's something that you can think about. And moreover, remember that this let you not think about the marksman of your opponent. So it's a way to make that it's safe about them. Anyway, I think that these arcana can be quite useful. Some of them are limited as option, but anyway they can be quite interesting. So the main thing is that you think when they can be useful and you include them in the roster that is suitable to apply them. So you have to make some adjustment eventually, but they can be really quite interesting. Anyway, from Dino Mode it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.